Okay folks, Mr. Marie here. We'll do another working on it Wednesday. So for today what I'm going to do is change the oil in my pickup truck. We're about 3,500 miles since the last oil change, so that's a good interval here for a vehicle such as this. It's a 2004 Chevy Silverado, and I run a basic motor oil with it, nothing crazy as far as a synthetic or something like that. So roughly every 3,000 miles, 4,000 at the most, you'd probably want to change that oil to extend the life of this thing. So vehicle's going on about 130,000 miles, which these trucks here with this series motor and stuff, they usually go till 250, 300,000. So we'll try and extend the life if we possibly can. Commonly you can take this to an oil change place. I'm not a fan of the price of the oil changes there. Sometimes the quality of the employee is questionable too. So I like to work on my own vehicles, just maybe a little sense of pride, but also save a couple bucks. Okay folks, just to show you what the manual looks like here. So here's what the owner's manual of the vehicle looks like, and we'll open this thing up. In the front you'll see the index, and our index tells us service and appearance care 5-1, and that's where we're at. So I put some tabs here to make it move a little quicker. If I look at my service and appearance care, you will see all the different things it talks about in here. So doing your own service work, types of fuel, checking things under the hood, all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, the rear axle stuff, replacing light bulbs and different things like that. It pretty much goes through everything. Into the second page, it continues to spell out what we're looking for. The first thing that we're going to come across here is, well, not the first thing, but one thing that I think is important to look at is the diagram of the engine and where all the components are. So it tells us, where the air filter is, the dipsticks, the reservoirs for the brake fluid, the windshield washer fluid, if there's a clutch reservoir, overflows, things like that. So all that information is listed in one place. Moving a little bit forward here, we're going to do the oil change. And if I look in the book, there's always a section that says capacities and specifications. So mine is a VIN T. It's a 5.3 Vortec VIN code T. So if I'm looking for spark plug gap, that information is listed. Torque for the wheels. And down here at the bottom, it says engine oil with filter. And it tells me that's where my 6 quarts is required for the vehicle. Okay, moving forward quickly here through. There's also a scheduled maintenance portion, and it tells us different things that we should do and the different maintenance intervals and things we should check over. So maintenance 1 is normal use, normal driving and stuff. Maintenance 2 is normally if it's used in dusty conditions, things like that. If you're running a little bit harder, you check the maintenance 2 stuff. And then they give you also a diagram with what the mileage is and where you should do the associated services. Okay. And lastly, the last thing we'll look at here in the owner's manual is the replacement parts section. So we said that the VIN code for our motor was T. The VIN, if you don't know what it is, vehicle identification number, and that is listed, if you actually look through the windshield on the driver's side, there is a code, I think it's 13 digits long, and you can look and see what it is. So we're VIN T, and here's my oil filter. If I'm using factory parts, PF44, here's a part number for the air cleaner, spark plugs, fuel filters, wiper blades, things like that. And those are all listed in one place. So just some common things you want to look at. And if you want to keep track of your records, you can put them in here. I usually just do them online and or do it on a document, and it's all together. So that's what the owner's manual looks like. As I said, check that before you start the project, and you're good to go. So this vehicle takes 6 quarts of motor oil. So there's a jug behind and 1 additional quart. So I always look in that book first, make sure I know what I need here before starting the oil change. You don't want to get in the middle of the job and not have what you need. So we have 6 quarts of oil. I also have the oil filter, and you can purchase these at an auto parts store. I think I've been buying these on Amazon because I find them a little bit cheaper. So AC Delco is what General Motors uses for OEM parts or original equipment manufacturer. You can buy the aftermarket stuff too, but I prefer to use the AC Delco filters on the GM stuff. We're going to need a ratchet and a socket. So I've done this, I don't know how many times over the years of owning this pickup truck. I know that it's a 15mm socket, 3/8 drive ratchet, and I use a flex head. This has a little bit longer handle on it for a little bit more torque. We're also going to need something to remove the oil filter. I'm going to use a pair of oil filter wrench pliers. I've had these for a while. They work pretty good. I think I bought them on Amazon for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 bucks, something like that. They also make a cup style wrench, which goes around the filter. It's like a circle, and it grabs the filter and spins it. Notice I'm wearing black rubber gloves. It just helps out with the process here, so we're not getting totally filthy and having oil all over the place. So that's what that looks like. We will show you a quick rundown of the motor here, and then we'll go underneath and we'll start to drain the oil. So if I look on the passenger side of the motor, the right side of the motor, there's a yellow dipstick that is for the motor oil, and there's also the fill here. That's where the engine oil goes once you fill it up. So I commonly just pull this out before I start the job. I'll also pull out the dipstick, and I'll take a piece of paper towel and I'll wipe this off. So we're starting fresh. And actually the oil doesn't look that bad in this, but I'm religious about changing it. So that's what we're going to do. That's where the oil is going to go. So we'll get positioned underneath the truck here and get ready to pull this apart. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the oil plug, and that would be right here. Okay, so I have a catch pan. You can't see it here. I have an oil drain pan underneath the vehicle, and that is going to catch our motor oil. We can't just let that run all over the ground. Obviously it's bad for the environment, but I don't want this crap all over the driveway here either. So lefty loosey. Oh man, there you go. Little bump with the hand there. Get your oil plug loose. So I'm going to make sure my pan is lined up here, and we're going to unscrew the oil drain plug. And as much as this you try, it always makes a mess. So try and line this up properly, and we will pull this out. Okay, so we're going to let that motor oil drain into the pan. And while we're waiting for that, I have a paper towel in my hand. I'm going to take and wipe off the oil plug. Now, I should mention, I did drive this vehicle. I had to run to Home Depot. I had to do a couple other things this morning. So the vehicle's been warmed up. Obviously, it's cold outside right now. It's probably 30 degrees or so. So pay attention to where the oil pan is. It's going to drip and stuff as it continues to drain. It's going to have a little bit less of a pour on it. Okay. So while we're doing that, once it goes back a little further, we'll take and pull the oil filter, and we'll let that drain also. It's a little bit of a messy process, but it's not the end of the world here. So while we're starting to get close here, we will take and we'll get these oil filter pliers situated where they have to go, and we'll see if we can clamp on the filter here. Hands are a little slippy since I got motor oil all over everything. See if I can grab this here. There we go. So once I get this loose, I'm going to take and we'll get these pliers out of the way here. Once I can spin it by hand. And you're going to get some oil that comes out of the filter also. That's that houses oil, obviously. So you're going to get some on you here when you go to pull the filter. Now, GM has this cross member here, and there's also a skid plate for the four-wheel drive. So the oil usually collects on top of here. It makes kind of a mess. Somebody maybe poorly designed that or wasn't thinking of the whole thing when they did it. So we're going to kind of be stuck living with it here. So, but we'll grab this filter here now. If the oil's too hot, sometimes you have to wait. You obviously don't want to burn your hand when you're changing oil. This thing's still a little tight, but we'll try and get on it. There we go. Just a little bit of finesse here. So now normally you have to wait for quite a while for this to drain. You can see the oil slowly dripping out of the crankcase or out of the oil pan. So we're actually not too bad as far as that goes. And you can see there's quite a bit of oil draining from the filter here. So rather than make a big mess, we'll let this go a little bit at a time. I try and go straight down with the filter. Don't bring it on an angle because you'll be wearing it here. Now I should mention I did put the vehicle up on ramps. Really couldn't video that procedure and do it at the same time, so I couldn't get the vehicle high enough for me to get underneath of it. So you can either jack it up and use jack stands, you could use ramps, many different ways to get the vehicles up. So our oil filter's off. You just saw that come down, and I have a good bit of oil on my hands here, so get this sopped up. And while that oil's still draining, we got to grab the oil filter. I'll be right back here. I'm gonna leave the camera roll, and we'll prepare to put that on. Okay, so as far as where the oil filter goes, we're going to take a clean paper towel here. We're just going to wipe that surface off. One thing you want to be careful of, I've never had this happen, but it's kind of a wise tale. Sometimes people will get two of the gaskets stuck together that are on the oil filter. One will be stuck on the block, and the other one's still stuck to the filter. And when they go to start their vehicle, it squirts oil all over the place. So you can see our fresh, clean filter here. And we want to take and put a little bit of oil around that gasket surface. So I'm going to just put a little light coat of oil on here. So I have a fresh quart underneath here. We'll open this up for you. And get some oil in there. Now, there's also the long-going debate of filling up the oil filter with oil before you put it on. So in this truck, for instance, we can actually take and hold that filter and have the filter go up on the block and have it full of oil. And what that's going to do is help basically have oil in the system when we go to first hit the key. Okay, so because I can do it on this vehicle, I usually do it. So you can see me here. I have the oil, I have the filter. I take here, and we'll just top this thing off first. Not full, but we'll get it up on there. Okay, any little bit will help. Okay, so there's some oil inside the filter. Now I'm going to take and put that on. So we have our gasket oiled up with some fresh oil, and we'll take straight up, place our filter on, and begin to turn this. So it's kind of a juggling act to get those threads started, but you don't want to cross thread this. You don't want to put it on crooked. That can cause major problems. If this thing does come off on the road, and more than likely you're going to blow your vehicle up. It's going to run out of oil, and you have major engine damage. Okay, so that's kind of snug. I'm also going to take and put my oil plug back in, because this is dripping a little bit. I need to get in here so I can tighten that filter up a little bit better. And we only get hand tight when we tighten the filter back up. I'm actually going to clean my hands, take these gloves off, so I can get a good grab on it, and really crank it tight. So I'm going to clean up this oil that's left underneath of here. And as I said, I'm going to remove these gloves here so I can get a good grip on here. So grab this filter, turn that clockwise, and there's just a hint of oil on it from my gloves, so I'm just going to grab a paper towel here and grip this. About as tight as I can get it by hand, and that's plenty. Like I said, you don't want to put any kind of filter wrench in here to tighten it. Now we have to tighten up our oil plug, so we'll take our ratchet, put it in the forward position, and snug this up also. Now you don't over tighten the oil plug. If we over tighten this and break this off, that's really big problems. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a nice pull. And that's good. Okay, I had one bad experience where an oil plug fell out of a vehicle I had. It was an old piece of junk I had when I was in high school. Didn't tighten it up enough, or I think I might have over tightened it and stripped it out, and that's why it came out. So I like to put the ratchet back on there, just check it again, make sure we're tight, check our filter, and we're good. Okay, I'm going to head back up top here and we'll show you the next step. Okay, before we try to start the vehicle up, I'm going to take and obviously put motor oil in it. So we're going to take and do that. Now I don't have a funnel here, so what I'm going to do here to start, I'm going to put my first quart of oil in, or about a little less than half a quart. So I did place some in the filter. We're going to empty this all the way, and I'm actually going to take and cut the funnel in half and use the quart container as my funnel. So just a quick little trick there. If you don't have a good funnel or something like that, you're good to go, and you can save yourself a step there. So when you got to pour the big jug in, it's a little bit more difficult if you don't have that funnel. So I'm going to take a utility knife here and cut it towards the top. Cut your fingers. And while you're doing this, it's also a good idea to just take a look at things. Sometimes you can save yourself some money, or maybe a problem on the road or something like that, just by taking a look. If anything looks suspect underneath the hood, now's the time to maybe address it. Or obviously it's 30 degrees out, so maybe you don't want to address it now, but something to definitely take a look at. So I'm gonna check the wiper blades here. I'm gonna check the rest of the fluids. We did one of those at the beginning of the year on a Fix It Friday. It's a little basic maintenance here. So let's cut this here. This blade's pretty bad, so have a little bit of a tough time here. Okay, there we go. Here's our funnel. Quart size funnel. There's actually still a bit of oil in here. So this might be a little tricky to try and hold it and do it at the same time. We got to pour the big jug in, but there we go. All that oil in there. Yeah, we'll make it work. Okay, so we got our big jug here. Probably gonna miss my face for a minute, but I'll try and do this so you can see what's going on here. And it always goes slow. Ideally, if I wasn't holding this funnel, I'd probably turn my jug on the left so we're not glugging the container here, which just helps keep things a little cleaner. You want to get your new motor oil running all down the side of your vehicle. Plus, wherever you get that oil at, it's going to burn. It's going to stink real bad, so you don't want to do that. So I probably have the oil, the filter. I think the oil was $13 or $14. 3 for a filter, so it's $17. The oil change place across the street here, I think they charged $40 for a pickup truck with regular oil. So I did it for under $20, and not that I don't trust them in their work, but 20 bucks is 20 bucks. Okay, so we're just about full here. And we'll let that drain for just a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this settle for a couple of minutes. We want that oil to reach the bottom of the oil pan. Oil is a little bit cold because it's sat in my truck. I'm going to make sure that oil's down at the bottom of that pickup, and that way when we go to start it, it's not a dry start. We want that oil to be able to be picked up and lubricate the engine. So our jug is empty. We're going to use that in just a minute. We're going to take our old motor oil and put it back inside of here. So you can see what that looks like in just a minute. Okay, we're going to take our dipstick. Back where that goes. And there goes our funnel. Okay, we're done with that for a quick minute. We'll take our oil cap, goes in the valve cover. Place that back on the motor. And as I said, we'll let this sit for a couple of minutes. I'll start it. We'll put you inside the vehicle so you see the oil pressure come back up, and then we'll check outside for any leaks. So the first thing we're going to do is reset the oil life monitor. So I'm going to put the key in, I'm going to turn it, and in this vehicle you pump the accelerator 3 times within the first 5 seconds, and it'll say oil life reset. So we'll do that first. 1, 2, 3. Oil life reset. And this here's my oil pressure gauge. I'm going to start the vehicle and watch that build pressure. And we're good. Now we're also going to check for leaks outside while the vehicle's running. So let's get under the front and see what that looks like. So while the vehicle's running, we're going to take a look underneath there and just make sure that there's no there's a raindrop there or some melting ice, just to make sure there's no oil leaking. Okay, you would commonly see something if there's a problem with the oil change and there's an issue. We'd want to take care of that now. Okay, you can always see the vehicle's up on ramps. We're going to take it off the ramps. We're also going to take and pour this oil into this container here. So we need to appropriately dispose of the motor oil. And what I do is I usually take it back to Advanced Auto Parts where I bought it. or even if you didn't buy it there, they'll still take your used oil. So we're going to take and dump our oil back in there. This does make a little bit of a mess. Now remember, we put 6 quarts of oil in the truck. This is only a 5-quart jug, so we're going to be careful not to overfill our container. That last quart I'll leave inside the pan, and the next time I get a jug of oil, we'll take care of it then. We don't overfill the jug here, so we'll let this catch up. And we'll use there's a little sight window in the side of the jug. Pay attention to that as we're dumping it here to not overfill it. Actually, we might have been a little bit low on oil because might have been about a quart low. Okay, we were a quart low. We filled to the top here, and well, that's something else to keep an eyeball on. So we're a little bit low on oil there. That's something to obviously keep an eye on. So every time I get oil or get gasoline now, I'm going to check to make sure that the vehicle's not low on oil. So we'll put our lid back on here. And we'll take that to Advanced Auto Parts. One thing I did notice, the washer fluid was low. So I got some, I like the de-icer stuff myself. So here's what I picked up. Wally World Special de-icer. And that way you can get the frost off the windows with cold out. So we'll top this off. Everything else looked okay. Some of the older vehicles, you have to grease the suspension parts. This vehicle, I've pretty much replaced all the front end components, and nothing's breathable anymore, so I don't have to worry about that stuff. Not sure if this will take the entire thing, but it only holds about a gallon. We're almost there, so oh, there we go. Fill to the top, fill the left in our jug there.